is Randy Houchins, a parent of 2 middle school children. I thank you for allowing me to address you today. In October, I gave you examples from grades 3 through 8 of how STAR assessments are starting to test methodology instead of knowledge of mathematics. Today, I will show you how Algebra 1 has been affected by the new TEKS and increased rigor, or the emphasis on conceptual understanding over knowledge of basic skills. First, let's recap what I covered in my last testimony. These are the examples from the STAR test. This first one is an example from the 2015 5th grade STAR, where they're testing a methodology of multiplying decimals using an area model. The student does not even have to get the correct answer to the math problem. They only have to recognize the method. Also from the 2015 5th grade STAR, there's another problem where the student doesn't have to perform any math, just recognize pictorial models. Pictorial models are a method for performing division. The next one is an example from 2015 6th grade STAR of testing methodology of multiplication using a number line. They don't even have to do the math, just the number line. And the next one is from 7th grade STAR, testing methodology of solving an algebraic expression 2x plus 5 equal 11 using a pictorial model. As I understand the Education Code, Title II, Public Education, Subtitle F, Curriculum, Programs and Services, Chapter 28, Courses of Study, Advancement, Subchapter A, Essential Knowledge and Skills, Curriculum Section .002I, the State Board of Education shall adopt rules for the implementation of this subchapter, except as provided by subsection J. The board may not adopt rules that designate the methodology used by a teacher or the time spent by a teacher or a student on a particular task or subject. I believe that the 2012 TEKS are in violation of this statute. We have now seen how the TEKS and STAR assessments are starting to focus on specific methodologies. The TEKS spell out specific methodologies that must be taught and then assessed, checked that the student can recognize the methodology, not whether they can really solve the problem, using whichever methodology they choose. I implore you to seek an Attorney General opinion on whether the current TEKS are in violation of TEC Chapter 28, Section 28.002. Now let's look at what I've seen in some of the Algebra 1 this year. This year the first year the 2012 TEKS are being taught, and this year will be the first year the new TEKS will be tested on the STAR assessment. I look forward to the release of the 2016 STAR Algebra 1 questions so I can evaluate them. I took the 2014 STAR test and the 2015 STAR test. It took me an hour and 50 minutes to do the 2014 test, and it only took me an hour and 11 minutes to do the 2015 test. 2015 was easier than 2014. Now, here are some examples of what's going on in algebra because of the new TEKS. Below is a problem that my daughter brought home on her 15th of January assignment. It's from McGraw-Hill Algebra 1 textbook. This problem covers chapter 111.39.11b, solve for x. My daughter was confused for this. The x is in the exponent, so you have 9 raised to 2x plus 3 equal 2,187. She was confused. All of her instructions she had been given, including the example problems in her new TEKS-aligned online textbook, see example 5b included in your handout, was to solve the exponent, you had to make the base the same. But what exponent of 9 gives an answer of 2,187? To solve this problem, Algebra 1 students are told to guess and check to solve. Here is what that looks like. So you say 9 squared is 81. Well, that's lower than 2,187. So 9 cubed is 729, still too low. 9 to the 4th is 6,561. Oh, that's too high. So let's guess something in between. This is not mathematics. So,
I'd like you to finish.
So if you pick 3.5, you've got it, and you can then get on to solving the actual algebra problem. 2x plus 3 equals 3.5. And you can solve for x is 1/4. You can see the example here. On question 80, it was even harder. But if you could recognize that 9 times 9 is 81, then you could get to the simple math. But why do these problems seem so hard? For the 2012 TEKS, this is what rigor looks like in Algebra 1. where the teachers have the students guess and check because they are teaching concepts that are 2 years above their grade level. They are not teaching this because they want to, but because it's required in the new TEKS. Here's how simple these problems are solved when taught the log function, an Algebra 2 TEK in the 1998 TEKS. Problem 54 is straightforward. When you take the log, you can see how you actually use a mathematical process to solve this, a mathematical function, not guess and check. And you can see 80 is the same way. So straightforward math versus guessing and checking. So it's this increased rigor that has caused that. So again, thank you for your time and your attention. Any questions?
Just a question. Have you ever reviewed any of the Singapore math on their test?
Yes, I have.
And would you say that their questions are straightforward, or?
They're more straightforward than we have here, although Singapore math has changed over the years. Older Singapore math is very straightforward, more like the Saxon math of 2004 and before.
So I know when we did this, we used that as one of our areas to look at what Singapore considered the best in the world at that time. Even though this problem, this log of 2190 is very, I wouldn't know how to do that, but it's a step you don't have. I'm saying it's straightforward, and that's been a concern I heard from parents in the 3rd and 4th grade. The answers are not straightforward. You know, what is 9 squared equal? 9 to the x equal 81 with 9 have 9. You know, that kind of stuff is straightforward. You understand how to do it versus the multiple step things or tutorial things. What I'm hearing over and over, we're not, again, the question I asked, we're not doing it for speed and accuracy. We're grading you on, are you following a certain picture or process? Right.
And the process is what we want taken out of the TEKS. You know, I mentioned last time, pictorial models are called out 23 times in the 2012 TEKS in grades 3 through 8. Area models called out 9 times. These things are methodologies for solving math. They're processes. They're not, you're dictating methodology. And, you know, example from 3rd grade, we pulled it up just a little while ago. 111.5, grade 3, section 4E. Represent multiplication facts by a variety of approaches such as repeated addition, equal size groups, arrays, area models, equal jumps on a number line, and skip counting. Now you're requiring 6 different ways of teaching a 3rd grader multiplication. They've got to be tested in all 6 ways. This is methodology. We got to get it fixed.
One clarification, the such as are just examples, they're not required. If it was including, then it would be required. The such as are not. Now that we have had some disagreement between us and the assessment people what such as means, but the intent was those are examples of ways to do it, not required ways to do it.
Right, but you see from the STAR test questions that I've given you, they are testing that methodology.
Right.
So,
Mr. Mann?
And again, good to see you again, and you and I have had a number of conversations, and so to be clear, and so everybody understands, is that that in terms of those methodologies, is that no one's opposed to those methodologies, is that because if a teacher finds that a student understands the concept or the idea behind how to work that problem, that's fine. I mean, and that's a classroom strategy. But to the extent that a student ought to be assessed that they know how to work a problem 6 different ways, and because of how those TEKS are written and therefore how they're being assessed, that is absolutely just kind of gumming up classroom instruction. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
yes, that's exactly right. And I just started looking at the algebra stuff this semester. My daughter's taking Algebra 1 this year. And so I'm looking at how it's affecting that, and we're getting statistics from other districts. Got some information from a Katy parent where they looked at the fail rates, D's and F's in Katy. For the 3rd 6 weeks, 33.7% of students taking Algebra 1 had a D or an F. In semester 1, 37%. And it's because of the complication of the way they're teaching the new TEKS.
What are your math teachers telling you?
They're saying they have to teach this way. I mean, I've talked to the curriculum directors, and they're saying we have to do this because it's in the TEKS. It's gonna show up on the STAR test, or they assume that it's gonna show up. I showed them, yeah, it is showing up, just doing the STAR test that I did last year.
And to your knowledge, are your math teachers communicating those concerns to their professional organization?
I know that some of them have. Most of them are too afraid to speak out. There are teachers who agree with us, but they're being told by the district leaders, and it's not just in Leander, it's across the state. We've talked to many parents in a lot of different districts, and you know, they're saying, you know, this is the new way of doing it, and we just got to give it time. I mean, it's been done before, and it failed miserably. I don't want my kids to suffer through this year after year. I've been sending my kids to, or my younger daughter to Sylvan. Not every parent has the ability to do that.
Yeah, we did the Sylvan route once too, so I get that.
Question,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Miller.
you mentioned, was it you or the other, about asking for an attorney general? Was that your?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
That would force us to go back and do something about those TEKS,
Yeah.
if it is in violation of that statute.
well, it sure makes sense. Maybe our chairman will consider that, that he's gonna take it to the chairman.
Right.
Ms. Carter.
Hi, Randy.
Hi.
Thank you for coming back. And remind me what kind of engineer you are?
I'm a mechanical engineer as
Oh,
well.
you are too,
Yes.
okay. So, I don't think I know of any other parent, you know, in the state who has taken the STAR test. So, thank you for doing that. That really, I think, gave you a unique understanding, you know, of what's in the STAR test. And, you know, I'm not putting blame anywhere because I think, you know, the assessment staff is doing what we have in the TEKS. And, you know, back then, and I was on the math, on the board during the math revision and that whole process, and, you know, it was the correct research, and we go with what our teacher review panels ask for, et cetera, not knowing the huge shift that it would bring. And so now we are where we are, and that's why we're going to have this discussion today with assessment staff about looking at the way the test questions are structured. Unlike Mr. Maynard, go ahead and teach the students, are there 5 different processes, I think I've been told. So teach them the 5 processes, right? And I'm sure your kids have been through that. All right, so which process works best for Randy, which works best for me? Let them use whatever process works in their brain the best on the test for the correct answer. But you're finding on the test that it's testing that every student is required to know every one of the 5
all the different
processes.
methods, yes.
Well, to me, that is not equity. We heard that word yesterday. That is forcing a struggling student who maybe understands process 1 to use processes 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. So that defeats why I thought the processes were being taught anyway.
That's right, and it's not just the processes. You know, I gave this example from grade 3, section 4E, that does say such as, but on section 5 it does not. It says algebraic reasoning, A, represent 1 or 2 step problems involving addition and subtraction of whole numbers to 1,000 using pictorial models, number lines, and equations. So there's three methods.
Their brain wraps around the most to get the correct answer. Is that headed in the right direction for the STAR test since you took the tests? Would that be a big change, or?
You could get rid of a lot of these questions that are just testing knowledge of a process and get back to questions that are, you know, mathematics, you know, solving a problem.
Right, like the correct answer.
That would be that would be the direction we'd like to see it go.
And that, I will speak for the board, I think I can speak for the board back then, that was certainly our intent, and we on purpose put in references to memorizing multiplication tables, you know, up to 12 by 12, and standard algorithms, and so we, you know, by putting in the more traditional math concepts, we had hoped that would do the trick, but, you know, now it's not until implementation that the problems were made aware, to me anyway, or to us, so. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
For coming back, we appreciate it.
I'll let you know when I finish those
One
2016.
more,
Okay. Oh, wait, he's got that.
you know, it's even more basic than that. I remember back to us working with the math teachers and dealing with the experts. And the problems coming out of the universities, and certainly impacting on the education colleges. But I remember on this board having a very long and difficult debate trying to require kids to memorize the multiplication tables through the 12 times. And I heard every argument that they could possibly come up with as to why that was not to be a standard. Whereas, well, they can use modules, they can use blocks, they can use a grid, they can use calculators. But, you know, just trying to get past the concept that the kids might have to memorize and just learn something for what it was. And it's just pervasive. And it starts down at the very early grades. Keep up the fight. Ms. Hardy?
I kind of like a clarification. I work with a fourth grader, and before she finished the third grade, we made sure she had her multiplication tables according to the 12s, and she does them with automaticity. And I used to quiz half the school with it too. There was a big emphasis on that. I was told by the teachers that if they learn their multiplication tables with automaticity, that made them do better in math. So I don't know where that's coming from. It's in the standards that they're supposed to do it. Oh, so what were y'all saying about it?
Well, I was just saying that we, Mr. Vice Chair. May I
Who you want?
respond to?
Yes, because she responded.
So no, I was just pointing out, and Mr. Bradley reminded me of the battle that they went through to make sure that that was put in there, and it is in there. And that was one of our attempts to, you know, stick to real traditional math, but then all this, the other was added about the process skills too. So, but yeah, it's in there.
Well,
Like cursive handwriting is in the EMR.
Well, believe me, in the schools that I work with, we are doing the multiplication tables. Kids fear me when I come up.
That's right. And Pat, I thank you for your support back then, but my point is why were we even having to have that debate then?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, I'm sorry, remember, Chairman and Vice, whatever.
Chairman of the Vices.
I'll conclude with this, because I get puzzled. I remember some things when we had first met. I was outside a committee, Tom Atney committee back a couple years ago, outside. And I remember, right, there were several examples. One was like a long division, where a child had done it the way that I would have taught my children, and the answer was right, but marked half right because they used the method that I understood, or process, one of those 5 that I taught. And the opposite was, you'd show me some paper, you'd show me questions where the child had got the answer wrong, but marked right because they followed they selected the correct process.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked the gentleman earlier about, is it speed and accuracy, or is it process? And I was upset because here's a child in a long division, the way I would have taught them, it was marked wrong because they made the mistake of showing their work. And they've done it the way I would have. It was marked wrong because you followed the wrong process, even though her answer was right. And the other one did the right process with the wrong answer and was marked right. Well, this is bizarre. This is just I'll go as far as bizarre. I won't say more than that.
I'll guess and check on my next tool I design. Use the guess and check method.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.